How did you like the 2023? What's it called?
Electrify Expo.
Electrify Expo. You just left it, right?
Yeah, this is our first time actually going to something like this.
Okay.
So we were just checking it out. It was really cool. We saw our primary focus was the Kia's, Toyota's hydrogen car. We took a look at the Volvos, but out of everything that we did see, at least for me personally, the Teslas looked the worst. Like they look shiny on the outside, but all the tech on the inside, it was just there was no innovation. Still has a screen that pops out, whereas the Kias and the Toyota hydrogen all has it integrated. So too with the Volvos. So it looks Tesla's falling behind. And the Kias to me looks much more futuristic, much better, much more sleek than the Teslas. So ultimately, Teslas was probably the worst car here.
That's amazing because Tesla kind of started this whole thing, right?
Yeah, and you would think that they keep on pushing forward, but they're not.
So it looks to you like they fell behind in a way.
I think that they're just giving up. Yeah, like they're not innovating like they used to, and all these other car companies are catching up. Like, for example, Toyota's hydrogen car, which converts hydrogen gas, it combines it with oxygen, gives it electricity. I mean, come on, it's a 400-mile range, and Tesla still hasn't hit that target yet.
Amazing.
And they haven't even made it. They don't even make the inside look sleeker, and Kias are more comfortable as well, because we both experienced the Tesla. Our parents have a Tesla, so we've driven it. We've been as passengers and drivers. It's nothing like the Kia, and it's the Toyota. Well, you drove it. For me, and as a passenger, it was really comfortable, more comfortable than driving the Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the Toyota, the hydrogen car, it was a pretty smooth ride, and it's just the fact that you actually, when you're driving, you know that it's actually true clean, not this lithium-ion bullshit type clean, because lithium, if you understand the process of lithium, it uses a shit ton of water, and with all these extra batteries, there's going to be a crisis sooner or later. So just knowing the fact that you have hydrogen, you're not wasting any water, but you're actually producing water, that's pretty cool in my point of view. And while I can agree with my brother that Teslas overall are the worst cars that we see today, aerodynamically speaking, I'll have to go with Volvo and somewhat Kia, because they still have that old door handle. These manufacturers need to start thinking about aerodynamics when it comes to electric or hydrogen and things like that.
That makes sense. So would you like to see more aerodynamics in cars?
I like to see a lot more aerodynamics, but also like to see a little bit more on the actual true cleanness of the entire vehicle, because a lot of these vehicles, they're not clean in how they're manufactured, but just what they're actually producing in the end. With lithium, you're still producing carbon just to make the actual battery, whereas hydrogen, you have to just only extract it, but then you're producing pure water when you're mixing it with oxygen. So you have to really think about the actual level of, if you're truly going to be clean, if you really want to help the climate, start thinking about like how these how your product's being made right now.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How about the way the fuels? Is it a fuel cell? Because
It is a fuel cell.
The
Yes.
hydrogen.
How about how that's made? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know how the actual cell is made. I'm assuming that there's still a chemical process, because it's still coated and like it's sheets of aluminum.
It's just a combination of hydrogen gas and oxygen gas.
I think he's talking about the tank.
Yeah, it's
The where it's stored. Like I'm pretty sure that still uses a lot more chemical, like still pollutes. I mean, that's the big
Just the whole
issue.
process. Yeah, the whole process.
I think the car
Altogether.
overall, just manufacturing the car still pollutes, but the hydrogen technology, just starting and using it as a fuel source, I think you could replace a lot of it with hydrogen. Just instead of using gasoline, fossil fuels, use hydrogen instead for that same process of, refining the aluminum, refining steel, and that will change it. I think hydrogen is the best chance that we've got in terms of putting a new type of fuel source that it still makes sense to a lot of people.
That makes
You're
sense.
still filling up your tank. For factories, you're still burning when you technically burn, even though you're not really burning hydrogen. It's similar. It makes more sense to people. You're using hydrogen as a gas instead of just gasoline or coal, fossil fuels, things like that. So I think hydrogen technology, we should be investing a lot more into it, and Toyota seems to be doing that a lot.
I see. And what are your thoughts about, have you read anything about how cars are supposed to not be sold in California, like in, I don't know if it's 10 years or 5 or 10 years, the gas cars?
The gas cars?
Yeah, have you heard anything?
I think it's a good push.
Okay.
I think it's a good push by the legislature and by the California state government overall. It's a good goal to have. I don't know exactly what they're shooting for, because it's not going to make sense if we're going to be relying on a lot more battery technology, on the current batteries and things like that. So I think it is a good push. The problem with me, I'm pro nuclear, pro hydrogen. I don't want to be seeing a lot more lithium batteries. I would like to see a lot more sand batteries. I don't know if you've read anything or heard anything about that.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, it's really interesting where they use the heat, where they store heat from in these batteries made of primarily of different sand materials. But hydrogen for me, especially if you need to replace a gas car, use hydrogen. I think hydrogen, especially in factories, hydrogen isn't perfect for everything, and there still needs to be a lot that worked out. But I think hydrogen is the best case scenario in terms of just not changing people's routine and much. You just need to put it. You're literally filling up a gas tank. That's easy.
Right.
And we've got plenty of gas stations around, so I would like to look into how we can change those for hydrogen and use hydrogen instead.
It's almost like the infrastructure is initially kind of there already.
Yeah,
in a way.
exactly. It's not, and same thing with nuclear. If you need electricity, try using nuclear power plants. You don't need to upgrade the grid as much when you have renewables and things like that.
I'm just guessing, and I shouldn't assume this, but when you say you like nuclear, I'm guessing that nuclear can be safe if they update them, right?
Nuclear is overall safer. If you think about, like, everyone's really worried about, like, the radiation when you hear nuclear.
From the accidents, right? The past.
You hear 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl's most
right.
one. When we actually think about, like, radiation, it's actually like a small pellet. If you actually look like what they actually are, it's not this liquid goo. It's just a little small pellet, and there are ways that you can recycle it. So instead of like it being radiated for hundreds of thousands of years, it can just be only radiated for hundreds of years.
So yeah,
I think that like literally the pellet. If you put your finger right, like you put your thumb right here or finger right there, right. That's as big as the pellet is, and we have technology to basically recycle all those
pellets.
All those pellets.
So they don't have to go in the ground. They don't, and we don't have to have these. Yeah.
No, they're not gonna. They're gonna go in the ground. They're gonna be stored somewhere, but it's not gonna be stored for. It's not gonna be stored for a really long time.
Yeah, for thousands of years.
Because something could be done with them.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we have enough radioactive waste to power if we were to recycle it for 100 to 150 years, the entire U.S. for 100 to 150 years.
So it's an energy source. In a way.
Yeah, it is an energy source. But then we've got fusion, and then we have molten salt reactors, which don't actually melt down because it's liquid form. And so there's a bunch of different technologies, but the problem is that there's a lot of buzz for nuclear accidents, and there's not a lot of education. And even if we produce the same type of reactors we were making in the 60s, overall, if you want to convince people that it's more economically sound, get investors, you make a lot more money in a 10 to 20 year span than with gas plants. Okay, and it's actually safer to work at a nuclear reactor and a nuclear plant than it is to fly to Japan. It's actually much safer than where we're standing right now, because everything radiates radiation.
Right.
If you're living next to a nuclear power plant, you're getting less radiation than just me and you talking right now. I don't think that's true. I think it's from a coal plant. If you were living next to a coal plant, you experience more radiation than you were working at a nuclear plant.
Okay.
But yeah, I think nuclear power has a really bad rep because weapons, accidents, things like that.
It's just how they're built. It's literally just how they're built.
How can the old power plants be updated? Can that be done?
That actually can be done. Yeah, it's just going to take a little bit more money. But it actually can be.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
But even still, I think
because you're talking about building new power plants,
I'm
right?
talking about
with the latest technology,
new
the latest safety, everything the latest. Yeah.
I think I'm not entirely sure because those reactors are from the 60s. Those are older than probably a lot of people here.
And maybe those should just be closed, right? Maybe.
That's the biggest problem, is that a lot of these reactors, even from the 60s, they're technically operational, but because of all the protests and things like that, people are shutting them down. But when you actually think about it, when you shut down a nuclear reactor, a nuclear power plant, it's not being replaced by what you want. It's not being replaced by solar. It's not being replaced by wind. It's being replaced by coal, natural gas, things like that. So,
Got it.
And to answer your question on the actual, can they be recycled? Can they be restart up and implement newer technologies? Absolutely, we can easily do that because the science is always the same. The science is the same. It's just how can we make it a little bit even more safer? Because all these nuclear accidents, there've only been a couple, and they've all been human errors. The actual operation.
That's not true with Fukushima. Actually, Fukushima should be seen as a very successful, since no one has died. No one has died from the reactor meltdown. Everything that those
when you talk about like cost of electricity per the electrical output.
No, I'm
per
talking
day.
about just during the explosions. Those people,
During the explosions.
Yeah, those workers did exactly what was needed to do. Nobody had the foresight of saying, oh, there was a massive tsunami. They couldn't get the pumps up to cool the reactors down. But every single one of those workers, that was a very successful. That was very successful. The reactor killed nobody. Government removed the people.
So they followed procedure and it worked.
They followed procedure. Those people were trained. In fact, I'm thinking about going to the U.S. Navy, mostly to learn about their nuclear technology. The Navy uses it for all their aircraft carriers, all their submarines. Not a single accident, and there hasn't even been a single accident for a radioactive waste contamination in any region.
And I'm just guessing they have the very
Fuck her
latest.
right in the pussy.
I'm just guessing they have the very, very latest. Everything.
They push a lot. They push a lot for those new technologies.
They have the budget to just do what they need, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of what we need too, in for the country, right?
I think so, but I also think that if we want to actually put in nuclear and make people feel safe, we need to have those people who want to go into that have the same training they do when going to the Navy. When working on those,
Very
those
detailed.
reactors, they need to be highly disciplined and
Extensive
highly trained.
training, yeah.
But just
Thorough.
overall, I think if you combine hydrogen and nuclear energy, that would really make a dent in climate change. Not only that, energy costs are going to would plummet. I wanted to say
Go down.
skyrocketing down, but that just didn't make sense. So
Yeah.
So I think the future is hydrogen, especially for cars.
So we have choices. We have options.
We have,
We
do have a lot of
choices.
options, and particularly with transportation. And I'm gonna draw your channel a lot of controversy. The answer is not in cars. The answer is definitely not in cars. It is in public transportation. So the California high-speed rail. The issue with that right now is local governments want to be the first.
Okay.
And that's causing a lot of delays. It's causing the train to be even now slower. If you really want to make a dent, we got to stop buying new cars. If you already have a gas car, utilize it for as long as possible.
Is that kind of like voting with your dollar? Like use your money to choose what future you create, right?
Pretty much, but you gotta be smart.
You gotta be smart.
You need to be smart about it. So
okay.
if there's a new car, like we saw a lot of new cars here, ask yourselves, do you really need this new car? Is your gas car still working? If it is, don't buy a new gas car.
Okay.
Because California is banning sale of gas cars, that doesn't mean you have to give up your gas car. All that means is that it's going to be much more difficult to actually buy a gas car.
Yeah.
But what California government should be thinking about is what the fuck is going on with our train. We voted for a train, and now we're not getting it. So what California government should be doing is, okay, you know what? You can still purchase a gas car, but the money you're paying those companies for your car isn't going to go to those companies. It's going to go to funding our train because we promised you something.
I think I disagree. I think we got a lot of our infrastructure, California infrastructure, we can change it a bit. So instead of building newer things that require building new infrastructure, why don't we utilize the old infrastructure, update it? For example, like how many people take a metro up to San Francisco?
But that's the thing, is that we technically have the infrastructure. So think about it. If you stop with cars, you're not going to get a lot of traffic, right? You're not going to have a lot of people on the freeway. So instead of actually building new rail lines in remote areas, why don't just you put the rail line on the freeway?
No,
Think about it, because everyone goes to the freeways.
the only question I have is that practical? Because freeways are in certain areas that maybe train stations cannot be, or trains can't go in.
But that's where that's where you adjust the infrastructure. You don't have to completely rebuild.
See, for me, I don't know the answers to those questions. I would think it would be, I think it would be a good thing to look into. But for me, overall, with California energy policies, we got to look. I think we need to look at more nuclear, more hydrogen. I think nuclear and hydrogen would be the best, especially for cars. And I do think that there's got to be a push that says, look, if we want to stop, it's great to stop burning fossil fuels and putting that in our tanks, but if we're not, but that's just one small part that gets way too, I think, a little too much attention. For example, manufacturing of steel, manufacturing of aluminum, and a lot of other of these essential metals we need to make these amazing technologies. We got to look at how we can reduce that carbon footprint. So it's pretty much every single part of the chain. If we can do that overall, then we're going to make an actual dent. And being very conscious of where, okay, I live in a city, for example, in this city, but I don't drive my car to school. I can take the bus because it's close by.
Yes. If most people did that, it would make a significant difference.
So it's there. You don't need to make this extravagant change to your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the little simple things. Okay, well, if I'm going up to the mountains, there's no bus or train, then you know what? A car might be acceptable.
Yeah.
And thinking of things like that. If the supermarket is far away and you're on a time crunch, then a car is probably a good answer. But if you live in a city, I would go push your local government for either a local transit system, better bus system, things of that nature, and work that way. We have good solutions, but we got to invest in those solutions, I think. And if you want to have newer tech, new cars and things like that, buying a new car that's electric, that is environmentally friendly, make sure along this, what is that company doing along the process, from mining the aluminum, refining it, and then building it. I think all along that process, if you thought of it that way, then you want to make sure each part is not polluting in the environment. And that's why we went to this expo to see, okay, all these new cars, but I think they're missing a big component, which is the manufacturing of those cars. Mm-hmm. Manufacturing more cars, then you got to ask the question, is it offsetting all the carbon emissions?
That's right.
Which is why I'm really liking Toyota's hydrogen, because in hydrogen you can refine the aluminum, the steel, everything that goes into that car using hydrogen as a fuel for those factories, for those plants, and now you're using it as a fuel for your car. So that part is clean. I don't know if Toyota is actually doing that in their factories. I don't think so. But the fuel source, it's just demonstrating that technology, I think would be very helpful. But it's got to come from the local level of push for, better public transit, because overall that's going to lower it. That's going to lower it.
That makes sense.
I'm just going to be more individualistic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can do a lot of research, but just ask yourselves when you're buying new things, because that's the biggest problem. The more you buy, the more you're contributing, and the less money you have. So just really ask yourself, do you need this brand new toy right now? It's like Apple. It's like the iPhone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like literally a year, 2 years ago, Apple came out with a new iPhone, and then this year they came out with a new iPhone, and then the next 2 years coming out with a new iPhone. Do you really need that new iPhone? And if so, what about that new iPhone you can use that you can already do with your new iPhone? So it's the exact same thing with cars, but cars can last even longer. Mm-hmm. So if you have a gas car and you want to purchase a new electric car, ask yourself, is the electric car going to make something like extravagant? Is it going to be like a flying car? Or is it just going to be the exact same car, except it's electric? If it's the exact same car, it's just electric, no need to buy it until your old gas car literally breaks down and you can't use it anymore.
I think it's a long way of just saying, like, I think a lot of people, everybody says, we need this big change and that's going to solve the problem. No, it's very little
change,
change.
and anyone can do it. And if you're looking to buy a new car for the first time, or your gas car no longer works, yeah, sure. Then you can get an electric car. Then you can get a hydrogen car. But bottom line, do not buy something if you absolutely don't need need it. If it's not completely different, it's not completely revolutionary, just only a tiny something that's tiny change. No need.
It's not big. It's not big, right? I still have a gas car because it works, and I'm running it out to the point where, okay, an upgrade may not be necessary. These small little changes. You don't need big, huge changes to change the world. Just small little ones, right? You've got a battery. You've got a Tesla. Don't go and buy a new Tesla just because it has a longer range.
Yeah.
Wait until the car you can't really function. I mean, right? But,
what are your guys' thoughts about micromobility, like scooters and just bicycles, electric skateboards, and maybe having some kind of more of an infrastructure, if I call it that, for getting around?
Yeah, that is a great idea. But I don't like the taxi service like Lime, and I think Bird is another one, right? Owning those, great. Getting around. In fact, if we extend the range, you can travel a good area of the city, and you might not even need buses. Right. So that's perfect. That is perfect.
Honestly, I think this would be more beneficial for college students, because
I disagree. I think anyone can use it. I think anyone could, like,
for the short ranges, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because for example, like, there's a Vons near where I live. It's a good walk, but if I had a scooter, right, easy.
For me, I don't really like the electric bicycles because it kind of defeats the point of what a bicycle is supposed to be, which is like an exercise, but also transportation machine. Scooters, I'm good with both. Electric skateboards, those are I already skateboard. It's not electric, but you know what? They're good for college uses. So this is more for like a student. In my opinion, it's more for students.
I think I think you can use it for everybody.
Okay, if everybody is to use it, do you think what's a good way to transition to having more options for safe lanes for the scooters and bicycles? Because right now bicycles kind of share the road with cars. Do you think we should have more of a safe lane?
I honestly think if we were to do that, I think we should make either it should be walking, number one, pedestrian. Second priority should be everyone who has bikes and other scooters, and at the bottom of the pole should be cars. Okay, because cars are dangerous. You can kill somebody at almost any speed. Okay.
That makes sense.
It requires, since you're on the scooter, you have to be paying focused attention, and it's not easy to look at your phone, right? Because you're literally on two wheels, and you can hit something and go away, or fall down. Where a car, you can look at it and you can cause a major accident. So I think, honestly, reforming the streets so that you allow for people to walk, allowing for more bikes should pretty much be able to go anywhere, have little
safely
bike lanes,
too, right?
Safely too.
A divider between cars and bikes, right? A divider, some kind of divider, maybe.
Oh no, just do something like they do in Netherlands, where it's literally bike.
The bike is the fastest mode of transportation.
Seriously.
Oh, really? In Netherlands?
We stayed in a city called Den Haag, or The Hague, and we wanted to go to the beach.
Okay.
So so our dad, he looked up on Google Maps, and this was the times, literal times. Car, 2 hours. Train, walking was like an hour, right?
I don't.
Walking was an hour. Train, 43 minutes. Biking, 15 minutes.
I think it was like 20 minutes.
15 to 20 minutes.
Well, the way they do.
So our decision, let's go bike.
I think
Wow.
if you want to make cars less attractive to people, reduce the number of lanes, put tolls on the freeways and things like that, so people have to pay. Give them a financial incentive not to use the car, and to go use bikes, scooters, things like that. I think that's better.
That makes sense.
Reduce the lanes, and put in no car zones. Like for example, like in the Ocean Boulevard right here, it would be great to see just bikes, people walking, and e-scooters all over the place. It reduces traffic, reduces congestion, noise pollution. I think it's a great idea. I think everyone should have something like that.
So who could people put pressure on or make that request to?
Literally your local government. Figure out who your city council members are. Call them up. Schedule. Ask for meetings. Literally just put pressures on them. Put pressure on them. Get active. It can be simple as just voting. I mean, a lot of people don't vote at the local level, which is funny. But they want to have these big national changes. That's not how it works.
You have to go up the change. But I would even argue that you don't really need to. I would even argue that you can still put pressure on your local government, things like that. But lot of people, most realistically, I don't think are going to really do that. So just do stuff for yourself. So if you are, if you want to get more exercise and you live in a city, go ride a bike, go walk. If you're living in a suburban area, run around your neighborhood. Ride a bike. Like there are these tiny different things that you can do.
Or do what you're doing. Like literally, just go out and just ride your scooter.
Yeah.
Like I think it was Casey Neistat who he was complaining about how cars were parking the bike lanes, and so he would put his bike, go in the bike lane, and then hit cars and go over and say, "This is stupid. Like this is happening." So. And just videotaping what you're doing, but mostly putting pressure on you to find out who your local council members are and go and tell them, hey, I want this. It's incite change for your home environment.
Yeah.
If you did that, stop thinking of a big global picture because that's not going to change.
Just think about yourself. Just think about yourself. If you're overweight and you want to lose those pounds and you want to lose those last 5 pounds, go bike.
Yep.
If you just want to get ripped, go bike, go walk, go run, and things like that.
I don't think
so
that's
just do these tiny different things that help yourself. Don't think about anyone else because no one else is really going to think about you. If you want to change something that is beneficial for yourself.
Do what you can do.
Yeah.
And it's not hard. It's not hard. Literally, if you are in a city, right, and you want to go to a grocery store that's a little farther away, bus, electric scooter, bike.
Yeah.
You don't need. I think we put too much emphasis on a car, and don't get me wrong, cars are great for long distance travel. Right?
I like what you're saying. It makes sense. What both of you are saying, and we can do both.
Exactly.
What you guys are both saying.
And in my opinion, the way that we should travel is if you're living in short distances in a city, bike, scooter, walk. If you're living a little bit longer distance, or just traveling across the state, train. And if you're living in a remote area, that would be like the only time when you can use a car. So in my opinion, it's let's kill the car, scar the plane. Let's have a train. I want a train.
Kill the car. What's the next one?
Kill the car, scar the plane, and that's pretty much it. That's.
What's scar the plane mean?
Basically, with train, the reason why we don't have in the United States we don't have trains is because the airline industry and the car industry hate them. Mainly because cars they want money, and airplanes because ever since the Shinkansen, trains can go really fast and for much affordable prices. And so that's why the bus was invented, so they can transition people away from the actual local trams and trains into cars by actually having a just large public car. So that was actually a transition. I really like trains, and plus trains are so much fun to ride. It makes you feel like a little kid. It's so much fun.
I think for me, if you want it, so one, stay informed. Just if you have questions, listen to experts. We don't not your politicians.
Non-social media, definitely non.
Well, I mean, you can find experts there.
I'm talking about like Twitter,
Yeah, but always fact check your sources. But stay informed, right? Focus on what you can do, right? Electric scooter, all right, bike. And then just if you want change, then put pressure on local government. That's pretty much.
Which is your local city council
your
members.
Local city council.
So everyone has those.
But do things for you. Like if you don't want to put pressure on your local government, you don't have to.
Just make your own change.
If you want to see changes,
yeah, live your change.
Just make your own change.
And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be expensive, right? I mean, you can look through a little history lesson. People stopped buying tuna because tuna fishermen were catching dolphins in their nets, and so they stopped. I know in some countries, I think it might be Australia, but don't quote me on that, to get lower smoking rates, they required smoking companies to put pictures of gum disease, lung cancer on the cartridges just to show like this could happen. These are not expensive changes, but it has to come from you. Don't force others to do something that you're not willing to do.
Yeah, don't be an asshole and force other people to do stuff that you want them to do and then you don't do it.
That makes sense.
But plus, just going on cars, just think about it. When you're purchasing a new car, you're not purchasing just a car. You're also purchasing the actual insurance, which is required by law, and that can be super expensive. So think about yourself. If you don't have the money and you don't need to spend it, don't spend it.
Yeah.
If you have the money and you do need to spend it, then spend it. If you have the money but you don't, and you just want new things because they're new, be reasonable. You don't need it, right? It's not going to be the end of the world. So.
Yeah. Okay, got it. What do you think is a good name for this video?
I have no idea.
What would you guys call it?
I would just call it honest opinions on electric vehicles, because I think a lot of people.
I think we talked a little bit more about that.
Well, just honest opinions about electric vehicles, about what's going on in terms of like we're both students right now, so we're taking a lot of these classes, so we
Okay.
know a lot about it. But
That's great.
yeah, just honest opinions about EVs, infrastructure, and the purchasing power.
Or new energy, just simple.
New energy?
New,
Yeah.
new energy ideas.
Okay.
New ideas, or something that shows a new inspires new ideas.
Where are you guys going to school?
I go to Long Beach State University.
I go to Loyola Marymount University. I'm studying mechanical engineering. So
Awesome. How about you? What are you studying?
I'm studying mathematics and chemical engineering.
Awesome. Okay, guys, and then what's the name of the spelling of the Netherlands town that had that quicker?
it's just look up The Hague, Hague, or Den Haag,
Which is just DEN. I don't know how to spell it.
Haug.
Oh, okay.
Hague. So, fantastic city. Highly recommended if you can go. It's very peaceful. Not a lot of tourists, but yeah, bike everywhere. Literally,
Great.
just bike everywhere.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so
Anytime.
much. And subscribe to, what's your channel?
True Zero Emissions. True Zero Emissions.
Subscribe to True Zero Emissions.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Have a good one. Take care, guys.
See you.